the major point that really has me very, very emotional over this issue. The major point is that plant should have been shut down before Tropical Storm Iselle arrived. And the fact that the plant was operating at relatively high power when a hurricane came, when it was known that if there were transmission line failures, it would result in a release to the community, when it was known that the community would be trapped in their homes due to trees, I find it incomprehensible that a group of public decision makers could make such a decision.
Is there a possibility that it's like settled in my catchment tank? Do I need to wipe down my furniture and floors?
Yeah, Mike, I don't know enough to give you an answer. I mean, there's got to be some medical type person.
Tonight's meeting, Mike Calachini described what happened from PGV's point of view. I've included some of the things we learned from that.
The decision was made. I'm surprised that the industrial made a decision.
General just says, I think what you saw, we had an incident. Decisions were made by, as they say, HALCO, which I have a difficult time understanding why HALCO would have the decision-making authority on plant shutdown. But the decision, according to Mike, was made that to keep the plant running. During a hurricane warning, I mean, I just cannot even comprehend that decision, if that is of truth. In regards to the thing that bothers me most is what I stated in there, that there were people who said they were affected. There were people that said there were contradictory information between what the fire personnel said, what the radio reported, and what civil defense reported. You just cannot have that during any kind of emergency, especially health hazard or life-threatening. And those things must be clarified. What went wrong? What was all the sequence of events before, during, and after?
What happened on the night of August 7th was that the geothermal plant was operating at 70% power. The hurricane blew down trees, which shorted out the two transmission lines that take power from Puna Geothermal Venture to the rest of the island. And as a consequence, the immediate load of the plant at Puna Geothermal Venture went from 70% to 0%. What that does is causes a tremendous overpressure condition in the plant that if you want to save the plant, you have to relieve. They have a system called the emergency steam release system, which opens up and dumps geothermal fluids and hydrogen sulfide and other noxious substances into the air to save the plant. That occurred at about, the trees shorted out at about 7:26 the night Tropical Storm Iselle hit, and in fact continued for about 45 minutes. Additionally, the Puna Geothermal plant had other relief valves that stuck open and did what's called an unabated release into the atmosphere as well. So very large quantities of hydrogen sulfide and probably caustic were dumped into the air and into the neighborhood surrounding Puna Geothermal. They estimated that approximately 70 pounds of hydrogen sulfide were released to the air, and that there's been no estimate of whether any caustic soda has been done. After the event, a calculation has to be done based on the chemistry of the issue to figure out how much caustic soda went into the community.
And when they abate with caustic soda, the caustic soda binds to heavy metals, and if it's
Civil Defense originally said everybody should stay in their home. As the smell became worse and they got more calls, and it became clear that PGV wasn't going to be able to secure the emergency steam relief valves in a timely fashion, Civil Defense informed the neighborhood, I think, using words something like, if you're feeling discomfort or ill effects, evacuate to Pahoa High School.
A civil defense alert is now in effect for the following areas due to the uncontrolled release of hydrogen sulfide at the Puna Geothermal Venture in Pohiki, Leilani Estates, Pohoiki Road, and Lani Puna. Emergency crews are responding and plant operators are working on the control of the release and monitoring the emissions. Residents are advised to remain indoors or to evacuate the area if any discomfort is experienced. The Pahoa High School gym is currently open and is available as an evacuation shelter for those who may wish to leave the area.
Of course, in my opinion, that was silly because almost no one could find a way around the trees to get to Pahoa High School. Well, what happened is several people passed out, and many people have felt ill effects. As we have gotten a return on communications, they have in fact gathered together, and we've had 2 meetings in which people have testified.
And about 7:30 or thereabouts, we heard the jet engine go off. At first confused, thinking it was the hurricane maybe making some crazy noise, but then saw it was only directional one place, the power plant.
We currently have probably about 20 testimonies of people describing what happened to them on that night and what physical effects occurred.
There was a huge explosion, and then it sounded like a 747 was landing in our house, and that went on for quite some time. And ever since then, I felt like my eyes hurt, and I can't breathe right. Right now, I can't breathe right, and like I said, I don't have insurance, so I didn't go to the doctor.
And then on Saturday night, the 9th, I woke up in the middle of the night and had a really bad headache, and wasn't able to go back to sleep, and had the headache throughout the night. And then I'm also 27 weeks pregnant too, so I'm just concerned, like, I guess if it could have, harmed the baby in any way.
It's like 6 a.m. and I was sort of strolling on the street to try and survey the damage, and I felt like I was going to pass out just from walking. Like, it was really scary. I've never felt like I was going to die before. I thought I was going to die, like, laying there. Like, it sucked, and I'm super pissed.
So I had no idea at that time and for hours what gas was being released, what effect, if I was about to die, or if I was just going to be sick, if I was going to be long-term sick, or what was going on. It was a really horrible experience, and it felt very betrayed and vulnerable and helpless.
And my eyes were burning from the first time I went outside, and ended up getting in the truck. Other friend followed me in a car, and we tried to find a way out of Leilani. And we went through a bunch of different streets because at that time a lot of the trees and power lines had fallen in the road. And I found one place on Kalakai where I almost could get out of Leilani, and the fire department was on the other side, and they couldn't get through. I ended up breaking a branch and going in between a power line and the edge of the road. And we were going to go to Pahoa, and I got to the top of Pahoa, and there was more trees that had fallen. And I had a chainsaw, and the chainsaw didn't work the second time, so I ended up staying the night in Kapoho. But throughout all of that, and not knowing whether to stay indoors or leave, I did breathe a lot, talking to the fire department and trying to get out of Leilani. My eyes were burning, my sinuses were burning, and I ended up sleeping in my truck in Kalapana that night, and I lifeguard at Pohoiki, and I was scheduled to work. I called my boss. He asked me if I was working, and I told him I'd make it down there. So I ended up walking down Lava Tree and making it down to the other side where there was cars and that were trapped, and I got a ride down and worked that day at Pohoiki, and I felt pretty bad.
I don't remember when, but shortly thereafter on Facebook, I noticed that the leak had been contained. However, I continued to hear that sound, that creepy jumbo jet through the jungle sound, off and on for a while. And then I passed out. I was laying, and I am a terrible sleeper. I have chronic insomnia, and there was a hurricane hitting, and I wanted to be awake in case there were any damages in my house. And I was laying on my sofa, and I just passed out for hours.
I head back home, and I'm telling everybody, look, you just got to stay inside. There's nothing we can do. So we all go back inside. We make up a bed in the closet, walk-in closet. I'm not even finished. I'm not even finished making the bed, and I'm out.
You passed out?
Out.
That's the second person that passed out.
I did too.
I was out for 12 hours, almost 12 hours.
Oh my goodness. Boy,
She tried to
tell
wake
you.
me up with the light and shaking me. The middle of the storm is going on. I like to watch storms. I'm a light sleeper when it's stormy out. I usually sleep 6 hours a night.
Believe us now?
I'm pissed. I'm scared and I'm pissed. I went to, woke up the next day, It took me about half an hour, 45 minutes to get ungroggy. I was still groggy most of the day. Basically, that day we couldn't get out.
So we got to get a doctor. We need a doctor.
How many hours you were out straight?
I'm going to go make some
11 hours.
12.
Over 11 hours.
Yes, when we first became aware, Puna Alliance on our Tuesday meeting became aware that there were significant and widespread effects. We called the civil defense, and they sent out people to help escort folks to the emergency room.
Do you see a doctor since that day?
I have to point out, though, that the people that come to these meetings are just a tip of the iceberg of the people that were affected. So although that's a very good thing, it certainly isn't sufficient. Monitoring system at PGV went out when the hurricane went out, and they're currently trying to restore it.
And my recommendation there is you got to have an outside body, and in this case, I think it has to be EPA, the federal agency, to come in and make a very thorough and objective review of what went on.